Sometimes a title comes before the piece, and sometimes the piece comes before the title. Must the devil have all the good tunes was a phrase that I found in an interview printed sometime in the 1950s with the Catholic social activist Dorothy Day. Taken out of context, it was a kind of catchy phrase, and I thought it was probably by Chuck Berry, but it turns out that the phrase supposedly originated with Martin Luther. I found it kind of piquant because I've been asked to write a piano concerto by the Los Angeles Philharmonic, and I had thought about certain piano pieces that had a sort of diabolical quality to them, a virtuosity, not so much dark, but just sort of a tongue-in-cheek wickedness to them. And of course, there is a piece by Liszt called Totentanz. And I thought of writing something that sort of had that edgy quality to it, but with a good dollop of American funk as well. Funky, twitchy, bot-like. Must the Devil Have All the Good Tunes starts with this very funky statement by the piano. It just sets the tone. It's sort of an in-your-face opening. And I enjoyed it the first time I heard it. I thought, okay, there's no other piano concerto that starts like this. I think we all emerge in one way or another somewhat wounded from our growth. This sounds rather banal, but my wound was that I never learned to play the piano. We didn't have a piano in our house until, I was actually too old to really learn it. But I did become very good at the clarinet. And then I also had experience conducting when I was very young. But not being able to play the piano was just terrible. First of all, it was very hard for me to learn harmony because I couldn't just sit down at the piano and formulate chords. But I think the reason I use this term wound is because sometimes we have some loss or lack. This inability to play the piano may have just forced me to imagine my music in a different way, maybe more mentally or so. And I wonder sometimes if I'd been a really good pianist, if I'd even have become a composer. Maybe I would have just become another pianist. So in a way, maybe it was a blessing. I've always been inspired by Bartók because Bartók found enormous inspiration and material in the music of his culture. And I suppose we could call it, the popular music of Hungary. I, an American living in the time that I live, what is my folk music? What's my Bartók? And it is American popular music, whether it's jazz or rock. And there is just this wonderful kind of powerful sense of pulse. Our American music tends to groove, tends to boogie. It has that sense of movement, of energy, and I think that's always typified my music from the very start. I don't think pianistically. When I listen to a Bartók piano concerto, for example, it's so evident that the composer just understood the instrument. And, most of the great piano concertos were written by very good pianists. Something about the fact that I couldn't play the piano that I maybe just provoked me into ideas that I never would have thought of if I were a pianist. So I do have these pieces like Hallelujah Junction and Must the Devil, some of my earlier piano pieces like Phrygian Gates, Grand Pianola music, where the piano writing is probably unique. And it does have a certain kind of forward motion that, I guess is, just part of my musical DNA.